Now, I am supposed to talk about civic participation and engagement, and the best way for me to do that is to talk about it in the context of Paul Quinn College. And to do so, I created a PowerPoint, and in case there are any typos or this doesn't work, I typed it up 15, 20 minutes ago. So we're gonna run with it. I wanna thank the AV guys because they adjusted on the fly. But what I want to talk about, because I think this is an appropriate environment and venue to do so, is I want to talk about one of my Texas heroes, and that is Barbara Jordan. If Barbara Jordan was alive today, she would be in this room. Because if we are honest, these are the causes that she fought for. And one of the reasons why I love Barbara Jordan, I read the biography on her and was just blown away. And there was a question that she asked that really left me thinking every day of my life, when I feel satisfied, when I feel as if we have done enough, when I feel as if we have been successful, I stop and ask this question that Barbara Jordan asked, and that is what I want to talk about during our time together. When do any of us do enough? When do any of us do enough? We live in a time that we are challenged to be our truest and best selves. We are challenged to stand up, to step up, to do things that people need done, because if we do not do them, society will not be a friendly place for people who represent causes that may fall out of the mainstream. And sometimes we think that the majority always gets it right. I'm here to tell you that I am a person who understands, has lived in fear of the tyranny of the majority. The tyranny of the majority are those souls who think that being loud is the way to persuade the crowd. They think that what your views are on certain subjects are held to be of such a nature that they win. Well, here's the thing about the tyranny of the majority. That is also AKA a mob. And mobs oftentimes get it wrong. And if you doubt that, I want you to think for a moment that we live in a country where slavery used to be the law of the land. That was the tyranny of the majority, because people thought that their economic survival meant more than my humanity. Slavery meant, discrimination meant, Jim Crow meant that there was a time not that long ago where we couldn't be in this room together, where you couldn't hear my thoughts. We're talking about textbooks and education in Texas. Did you know they're rewriting the textbooks to edit slavery out of the equation? Some folks want to call it a work program. What the hell? Right? It was not a work program. You couldn't show up. My ancestors didn't get 401ks, okay? That is not what this was. It was slavery, and it was wrong. But the majority of people, no, thank you. But the majority of the people in this country at some point thought it was right. So if you want to engage people civically, if you want to start movements that change what we know is wrong, you have to start with the values. You have to speak to the things that move people, that touch their souls. So at Paul Quinn College, not that long ago, we were a failing institution. We were an institution that people left on the side of the road for dead. When I became president almost 12 years ago, I was told we had 18 months to live. By the way, they told me that after I took the job. I would like to tell you I would have taken it if I had known better, right? But that would be a lie. So the point is, you have to give people something to believe in. So we began thinking, there is no path forward for us if all we do is be an institution of higher education. If all we purport to do is do the same thing that other schools are doing and have been doing better for much longer and have more resources to do. But we can be something that no one else is being, and that is we can turn ourselves outward and address the needs of the communities we serve. So we decided to become a movement, and we became a movement by demanding that we lived up to an institutional ethos that we created, and that is we over me. The needs of a community supersede the wants of an individual. At Paul Quinn College, you don't get to be selfish, and we will not rest until everywhere people believe in the concept of we over me. Because here's the thing that you need to understand. There is no path forward as a society by making the pie smaller. It doesn't work that way, right? That type of selfishness, that type of foolish thought is how you destroy cultures. The way forward is by recognizing the genius and the beauty of all of us, embracing all of us, making seats at tables for all of us. And if there are no more seats at the table, add another table, right? Add another table. So at Paul Quinn College, we decided to stop seeing a table and decided to start seeing a room, a house, a block, a city, a country, to define ourselves in a bigger way. That was our first step. We created an ethos, we over me. The second step, thank you. This is not their fault. If I had been on top of my stuff, I'd have a clicker and they wouldn't have to be subject to this. So I am thankful for them. Thank you. I'm just trying to get it right. All right. So we created a set of institutional values. And then we said we're going to live up to these values. Our first values were the 4 L's of Quinnite leadership. And these are very, very simple. We challenge ourselves every day to leave places better than we found them, to live a life that matters, to lead from wherever we are, and to love something greater than ourselves. Again, we give ourselves to the idea that we are part of a longer, larger, more important narrative, and that every day we must prove worthy of that narrative. The second thing that we did is we created a character test, and that is this. Every day, are you choosing the harder right over the easier wrong with apparent regard to self-interest, without apparent regard to self-interest? Don't make the easy decision that benefits you but hurts someone else. And don't do it just because you can get away with it, right? The test of your character isn't what you do in the bright lights of the day when everyone's watching. The test of your character is what you do at night when no one sees you taking shortcuts, when no one sees you making decisions that benefit you but hurt others. Will you make the right decision when you can get away with the wrong one, and that wrong one benefits you? That is our character test at Paul Quinn College. Third is that we teach our students and our staff to be advocates. Because when you come from under-resourced communities, because by the way, 85% of the students at Paul Quinn College are on Pell Grants, which means that they come from the lowest socioeconomic strata of our country, which means that they have been taught to aspire for less than. They have been told implicitly and explicitly that people don't care about you. They aren't listening to you. They're not checking for you. So they have learned to be quiet because raising their voice never seemed to make a difference. Well, we challenge that notion. We tell our students, closed mouths do not get fed. If you want something, say something. Use your voice. And if people didn't hear you when you whispered, yell until they do. We believe that the voice is one of the most powerful things we can be. And we will stand in the gap for those who haven't learned to use their voice until they do. Number 4, and this may seem a little odd for a historically black college, we believe that you can be our kind without being our color. Now, I used to tell a joke that HBCU stood for Hispanic Black Caucasian University. I told that joke in an all-black room one time. If I hadn't been 6'4", 225, I would not have gotten out of that room. So I now am far more deferential to the history of these institutions. We are a historically black college, but here's the thing. None of us were ever all black schools. Because if you understand history, you know that when historically black colleges were founded, we were forbidden to read and write. And we were forbidden to have property, to build wealth. So who funded our institutions to start with? Who were our teachers? They were people who didn't look like us. So for the entirety of our existences, there have been people who have shared our culture, have shared our commitment to our culture, have shared our commitment to moving forward. So we believe in those individuals still exist today. So you can come to Paul Quinn and realize you can be our kind and not be our color. And we're proud of the fact that about 26% of our student population would not have qualified as traditional students of historically black colleges. Next slide, please. So you can have values, but you need to have beliefs. And these are our beliefs. We think poverty is evil. We think the fact that we live in a country of abundance and people are forced to live with scarcity, that 43 to 45 million Americans live lives of poverty, is wrong. It is wrong. It should be an offense to our moral composition. So at Paul Quinn College, we believe and we will continue to believe that poverty is evil, and our single institutional goal is the eradication of intergenerational poverty. We will not rest until poverty is dead. Now, people will tell you that education is the way out of poverty. I mean, that's cool, but poverty is an economic condition. So the way out of poverty has to be money, right? So we want to teach. No, think about it, right? I mean, it's great to have lots of knowledge, but lots of knowledge with no dollars is a sad place to be. So we want both. We want our students to have knowledge and to have the resources necessary to live lives of comfort. So, thank you. So what we have told our students, what we tell ourselves, what we advocate for is the idea that debt is bad. There are many schools that will tell you that, oh, it's okay to have $40,000, $50,000 in student loans when you graduate. We think it is ridiculous to tell people who are on Pell Grants that they should owe more money when they graduate than their families make. That's wrong. Our third belief is that everyone can learn. We believe everyone can learn. If you come from inner city high schools, public high schools, you have lived a life where people have told you that maybe you weren't a good test taker, or maybe you weren't that bright. Maybe the work was a little too hard for you, or dreaming of being a doctor is a little too bold for you. No. It's not that everyone can't learn. The problem is everyone can't teach, okay? Now, let me be very clear. My sister is an almost 30-year veteran of the Chicago Public Schools. My grandmother was a teacher. My aunts and godparents are teachers. I am not being critical of our nation's teachers. They have a hard job. They are doing more than one job. They are social workers. They are parents. They are caretakers. And then they are paid to be none of those things. That is wrong. But what I am telling you is that if you are in a classroom and you need to capture the imagination of those students, you need people in those classrooms that can capture the imagination of those students. And all of our students don't have teachers that can do that. And maybe, just maybe, if we made the practice of teaching, the profession of teaching more appealing, that wouldn't be the case. So we believe in that. Our next belief is that our next must always be better than our now. We are acknowledging that education is a bet on the future. We are acknowledging that it is a social contract. You are paying us to ensure that your tomorrow looks better than today and looks better than yesterday. So then why don't we act like we know that? Why don't we be obsessed with the idea of creating value every single day that a student is in school, every single day that they are on our campus, every single day that they are entrusted to us? Why don't we be obsessed with the idea of making sure that their next is better than their now? These are our 4 beliefs, and we are proud of them. Our next slide, please. This is how we accomplish this. This is our formula. We preach hope, because hope is a precious commodity. If you have grown up in a land of scarcity, you have been coached away from hope, because hoping hasn't solved your problem. Hope didn't put the lights on. Hope didn't put better food in the refrigerator. Hope didn't bring your parents home, and hope hasn't made you happy. That's not what's happened for you. So you have to be taught how to believe in hope again. So we are relentless about preaching hope to our students. We practice patience, because we understand something. Every rose doesn't bloom on the first day of spring. It doesn't. Some of us required a little extra time and a little extra attention. Now, we're all dressed up nice today, so we want to believe that we weren't that rose. But some of us have been the rose that grew out of concrete. We have been. So with that, we're going to be patient and give you another season to mature and to grow and to bloom and to blossom. We think everyone benefits from a little bit of patience. We instill resilience because life is hard. Life is hard no matter how much money you have. You will be challenged. There will be moments of turmoil. There will be moments of sorrow. I wish I could protect you from that, but I cannot. No one can. So we have to teach our students the ability to keep going, to understand that you will be knocked back, but you don't have to be knocked down. We tell our students all the time, it is okay to stumble. We just don't want you to fall. We want to catch you before you fall. We want to lift you up. We want to encourage you and support you. So we have to teach people to be resilient. We want our students and our communities to be entrepreneurial in their thought and their action. Entrepreneurial is more than just making money. It's about having the resources to meet the challenges in your life with a creative mind and a hopeful spirit. Right? We want them to be able to be engaged, to recognize opportunities when others say that there are none. And then lastly, and this is the most important thing, if you remember nothing else that I talked about today, I want you to remember this. If we want people to participate civically, if we want people to be activists and to be engaged and to be advocates, then we have to understand the foundational principle of all of that is love. Right? It's not rage, it is love. And I will tell you how I learned that lesson. When I was in my first few months of being a college president, I took over an institution I've already shared with you was 18 months from closing. But we also only had 30 days of cash on hand. And I was stressed out because we used to have in the president's dining room the pictures of all 34 presidents of the institution. And my picture was the last picture because I was the most recent president. And on that wall were people who survived Reconstruction, survived the Depression, survived Jim Crow. So if the institution died under my watch, it would have been able to withstand all of that, but not my presidency, okay? So I was stressed out, I was hurt, I was angry, I was frustrated. And one day I ran into a student on campus who kind of ticked me off, and I ticked him off. And we got into a yelling match in the middle of campus. And we proceeded to yell from the middle of campus. And by the way, this is not my proudest presidential moment. This is not a case study in leadership skills, okay? This is a case study in what not to do, all right? So you gotta listen to the whole story, all right? But we walked up the steps to my office and we're yelling at each other and we're going at it. And we get in there, we close the door, he gets in the seat and he breaks down in tears. Just breaks down in tears. Now, full disclosure, I am from the south side of Chicago, right? I didn't grow up in a tough environment. My parents did well. But the city makes you tough, no matter how well your parents might have done. And I was not prepared for a grown man to start crying in my office. I did not handle that well, right? Thankfully, I had a staff member, Ms. Dickerson, who was with me. And she comforted him, and she helped him out of the office. And I'm sitting there like, what the hell? How are you just going to break down and cry? She comes back in the office. She sits down. She starts shaking her head, because she's disgusted with me. And she's the quintessential Southern mother. And she shakes her head and she says, baby, I met your mother, and your mother was tough on you. Your mother believed in tough love. But you have never spent 1 second of your life wondering if you were loved. So, and when you hear, she's like, in fact, you bear all the signs of someone who's been overloved. Now, I'm sitting there, I was like, did you just throw shade at me? But more importantly, did you just talk about my mama? Right? Like, and she says, so let me ask you something. If you had never known love, would you have heard anything other than tough? She said, I know you love our students, but if you want them to know that you love them, if you want them to trust you, if you want them to follow you, you're going to have to learn to lead with love. The single greatest piece of leadership advice I have ever received. It is also the single, no, thank you. But it is also the single greatest advice for advocacy, for organizing that I've ever received. Because we have to remember why we do the work we do. We don't do it for self-promotion. We don't do it for the awards. We don't do it because we feel we are self-enlightened and arrogant. We do it because fundamentally we love a cause. We love a group of people. We love something greater than ourselves. We love people who are greater than ourselves. We do it because we know in our heart of hearts and in our soul of souls that this is the way forward. This is the way to be better. So I implore you, as you get up today, as you go forward, as you go to your polls, ask yourself a simple question. What is it that you love? Why do you do the work that you do? Why do you believe in the causes you believe in? And then, once you answer that question, ask yourself, have you treated those causes with the love that they deserve? Have you treated those people with the love that they have deserved? And if you have not, commit to being better tomorrow than you were today. Commit that someone else's next will be better than their now, because you will remember why you got into this work in the first place. You'll remember why you donate. You'll remember why you walk. You'll remember why you phone bank. You'll remember why you make the sacrifices you do, because fundamentally you love what this country can become. You love what this country can become for all of us, not just some of us. And you are committed to making sure that is true. Now, as I take my seat, as I head back to Dallas, what I want to make sure of, what I want to remember, what I want all of us to remember is that we are committed to this organization. We are committed to the work that they do. That if we see the organization somehow, and I don't think this will happen, but I have to at least give a possibility, that if you see it somehow struggle, that you will not criticize it, you will love it. You will reach in, you will dig in, you will help, you will support it. You will support each other. There will be rainy days, but there can never be sun unless we all believe that there will be sun. So I am appreciative of the opportunity of being here. Thank you for the honor of your time and your attention. To the AV guys, thank you for being amazing at adapting on the fly. And to all of you, thank you for believing in a better tomorrow. Take care.